The alarm bells rang across Earth like thunder. In space stations, military bases, and cities around the world, people looked up at screens showing the same terrible sight. Giant alien ships filled the sky above Earth, so many that they blocked out the stars. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Freedom, Earth's biggest warship. His hands gripped the metal rail as he stared at the enemy fleet through the main window. The alien ships were massive, each one 3 times bigger than anything humans had ever built. There were hundreds of them, arranged in perfect rows like soldiers waiting for orders. "Sir, we're getting a message from the lead ship," said Lieutenant Carol Webb, her voice shaking slightly. She was young, barely 25, and had never seen anything like this before. "Put it on screen," Jake said. His voice was calm, but inside his chest, his heart was beating fast. He had fought pirates and rebels before, but this was different. This was war against something humanity had never faced. The screen flickered and an alien face appeared. It had gray skin, large black eyes, and no nose that humans could see. When it spoke, its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "I am High Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered 847 worlds. Your planet will be number 848. Jake said nothing. He waited, knowing more words would come. "You will surrender in 72 hours, the alien continued. "You will give us 60% of your people to work in our mines and factories. The rest will serve us in other ways. This is not a request. This is how things will be." The screen went black. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the sound of people breathing. Everyone was looking at Jake, waiting to see what he would do. "Get me President Carter," Jake said. Meanwhile, 300 miles below the space battle, President Lisa Carter sat in the Global Defense Council room deep underground. The room was full of generals, scientists, and leaders from every nation on Earth. Everyone was talking at once, their voices mixing together like a storm. "We can't fight them," said General Frank Miller, his old face pale with worry. "Look at their ships. We have nothing that can stop them." "Maybe we can negotiate," suggested Dr. Helen Price, the chief science advisor. "Find some middle ground." "Middle ground?" Carter stood up, her voice cutting through the noise like a knife. "They want to take our children, our families, and make them slaves. What middle ground is there in that?" The room went quiet. Carter was not a tall woman, but when she was angry, she seemed to fill the entire space. She had been president for 6 years and had never backed down from a fight. "Ma'am," came a voice from the communication desk. "Admiral Morrison is calling." Carter walked to the screen. Jake's face appeared, tired but determined. Behind him, she could see stars and the dark shapes of alien ships. "Jake, what's our situation?" "Bad," he said simply. "They have us outnumbered 50 to 1, maybe more. Their ships are bigger, their weapons are stronger. By all rights, we should surrender." "But," Jake smiled, the first time anyone had seen him smile all day. "But I've been thinking about my grandfather. He fought in World War III when the odds were just as bad. You know what he used to say?" Carter waited. "He said Americans don't kneel, not to kings, not to dictators, and sure as hell not to alien bullies who think they can walk into our home and take our people." Across the planet, Captain Tony Blake was having similar thoughts. He sat in his fighter jet on the deck of the aircraft carrier USS Liberty, watching the alien ships through his cockpit window. Tony was the best pilot in the human fleet, but even he felt small looking at those massive vessels. His radio crackled. "All pilots to stations. We're going up to take a closer look at our visitors." Tony strapped himself in and started his engines. Around him, 40 other fighters did the same. They were small, fast ships compared to the aliens, but they were all Earth had. As his fighter lifted off the carrier deck, Tony thought about his daughter Emma back home in California. She was only 8 years old. The aliens wanted to take kids like her and make them work in mines on distant planets. The thought made Tony's hands tighten on the controls. "This is Blake," he said into his radio. "I'm going to get close to the lead ship, see what we're dealing with." "Be careful, Tony," came the reply. "We don't know what their weapons can do." Tony flew his fighter toward the biggest alien ship. It was dark gray and covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. As he got closer, he could see gun ports along its sides, dozens of them. Each gun was bigger than his entire fighter. But Tony also noticed something else. The ship's shields were making a soft humming sound, a musical note that his instruments could detect. He recorded the sound and sent it back to Earth's scientists. Far below, in a laboratory buried under the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Amy Rodriguez was working frantically. She had pieces of alien technology that Earth forces had captured in small battles over the past year. She was trying to find any weakness, any flaw that humans could use. When Tony's recording reached her, Amy played it through her speakers. The alien shield made a low, steady tone. She frowned and played it again, then grabbed her guitar from the corner of the lab. Amy had always loved music, even as a scientist. She played the same note as the alien shield, then played it slightly higher. The piece of alien metal on her desk began to vibrate. She played it lower and the vibration stopped. Harmony, she whispered to herself. They're using harmonic frequencies for their shields. She picked up her phone and called the Defense Council. This might be exactly what Earth needed. Back in space, Jake Morrison was receiving reports from scouts around the world. The aliens had ships over every major city, every military base, every important location on Earth. 72 hours, he said to himself. They gave us 72 hours to surrender. His communication officer approached him. Sir, President Carter wants to make a statement to the world. She's asking all military commanders to stand with her. Jake nodded. Put her through to every screen on Earth. It's time people heard what we're going to do. President Carter appeared, on televisions, computers, and phones across the planet. She stood behind a simple wooden podium wearing a plain blue suit. She looked tired, but her eyes were burning with determination. My fellow humans, she began, her voice steady and strong. Today, aliens came to our world and demanded we surrender. They want to take our children, our families, our freedom. They believe we will give up without a fight because that's what other worlds have done. She paused, looking directly into the camera. They're wrong. We are not other worlds. We are human beings. Our ancestors fought against kings who said they owned us. They fought against dictators who said we must obey. They fought against anyone who said we must kneel. Around the world, people stopped what they were doing to listen. Today I speak for every person on this planet when I say, we are not your subjects. We are not your slaves. We will not give you our children. We will not surrender our freedom. Carter's voice grew stronger with each word. Earth does not kneel. Not today. Not ever. If you want our world, you'll have to take it from us. And we promise you this, that will not be easy. She looked into the camera one last time. To the people of Earth, be ready. To the aliens watching, you picked the wrong planet. The message ended. Across the galaxy, other worlds that had been enslaved by the Zephyrians heard Carter's words and remembered what it felt like to be free. In the alien command ship, High Commander Veltar watched the human president's speech with what might have been amusement. No species had ever refused the Zephyrian ultimatum. These humans would learn, just like all the others. But something in Carter's eyes made him pause. He had conquered many worlds, seen many species surrender. This was different. These humans looked angry, not afraid. For the first time in 1,000 years of conquest, Veltar began to wonder if his empire had made a mistake. The attack came at dawn on the third day. No warning, no second chance to surrender. The alien ships opened fire on every major city at exactly the same time. Commander Rick Hayes watched from his orbital defense platform as beams of red light shot down from the Zephyrian ships toward Earth. Each beam was hot enough to melt steel, and they fell like deadly rain on the planet below. All stations return fire, Rick shouted into his radio. Around Earth's orbit, 20 defense platforms turned their weapons toward the alien fleet. Human missiles and laser cannons shot back at the massive ships. The aliens had not expected humans to fight back so quickly. Their ships were built to destroy helpless planets, not fight other warships. Rick's platforms were small but fast, and they moved around the alien ships like angry wasps around a bear. "Target their gun ports," Rick ordered. "Don't try to destroy the whole ship. Just stop them from shooting at our cities." On the surface, the battle was harder. In New York, alien troops landed in the streets. They were tall creatures in dark armor, carrying weapons that shot bolts of blue energy. They expected the humans to run away in fear. Instead, police officer Dan Murphy drove his patrol car straight at a group of alien soldiers. He had filled the car with explosives from a construction site nearby. When the car hit the aliens, it exploded, taking out 6 of them at once. "That's for my kids," Dan said, right before the explosion. His sacrifice gave other humans time to escape to the subway tunnels. Captain Tony Blake led his fighter squadron against the alien ships in the sky above Los Angeles. The enemy vessels were huge and slow, but they had powerful shields that stopped most human weapons. "Remember what Dr. Rodriguez told us," Tony said to his pilots over the radio. "Play the music and aim for the shield generators." Each human fighter now carried a special device that played loud music: rock and roll, classical, jazz, anything with strong musical notes. Dr. Amy Rodriguez had discovered that these sounds could weaken the alien shields if played at the right frequency. Tony flew straight at an alien ship, his fighter's speakers blasting an old song by a band called Thunder Road. The alien shield began to flicker and spark. Tony fired all his missiles at the same spot on the shield. The missiles broke through. They slammed into the alien ship's hull and exploded. The massive vessel shook and began to fall toward the ocean. "It works," Tony shouted. "The music works. All fighters, pick your favorite song and let them have it." Across Earth's skies, human fighters attacked alien ships while playing everything from country music to heavy metal. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Their computers could not understand why humans would use music as a weapon. On Luna Base, the moon station where humans mined minerals and conducted research, Colonel Beth Turner was preparing for the worst. The aliens would attack the moon base soon, and she only had 200 people to defend it. "Ma'am," said Sergeant Pete Collins, "we don't have enough weapons to fight them." Beth looked around the base. It was full of mining equipment, construction tools, and scientific instruments. She smiled. "Pete, who said anything about weapons? We're going to use everything we have." Beth and her people turned mining lasers into guns. They filled cargo containers with explosives and launched them at alien ships using the same machines that shot supplies to Earth. They even used the base's gravity generator to pull small alien fighters into the moon's surface. The most creative defense came from Dr. Lisa Wong, a geologist who had been studying moon rocks. She discovered that the aliens' energy weapons had trouble with certain types of crystal found in the moon's caves. "If we line our walls with these crystals," Lisa explained to Beth, "their weapons will bounce off instead of going through." Soon, humans all over Luna Base were mining crystals and building makeshift armor. When the aliens attacked the base, their powerful energy beams bounced harmlessly off crystal-covered walls. Back on Earth, former Marine Sam Cooper was leading a group of survivors in the ruins of Chicago. The aliens had destroyed most of the city, but thousands of people were hiding in the subway tunnels and basement shelters. Sam had been a soldier for 20 years before retiring to become a teacher. Now he was using both skills to keep people alive. "Listen up," Sam told a group of volunteers. "The aliens think like soldiers. They follow rules and stick to plans. We're going to be different. We're going to be unpredictable." Sam's group used everything they could find as weapons. They turned kitchen knives into spears, made bombs from cleaning supplies, and used mirrors to blind alien soldiers with reflected sunlight. They painted fake tunnel entrances to confuse the aliens and set up traps in abandoned buildings. The aliens expected humans to fight like other species they had conquered, with fear and desperation. Instead, humans fought with anger and creativity. In space, Admiral Jake Morrison was learning that human determination could be just as powerful as any weapon. His ship, the UES Freedom, was damaged and outgunned, but it kept fighting. "Sir," said his weapons officer, "we're almost out of missiles. Then we'll ram them," Jake said simply. But before Jake could order a ramming attack, something amazing happened. Captain Tony Blake's voice came over the radio with urgent news. Admiral, we found their weak spot. When we play music at the right frequency, their shields fail completely. Dr. Rodriguez was right. Jake looked at the massive alien command ship in front of him. It was 10 times bigger than the Freedom, with enough firepower to destroy a city. But now he knew it had a weakness. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. He broadcast to every human vessel in space. Load up your speakers with the loudest music you can find. We're going to give these aliens a concert they'll never forget. The human fleet attacked together. Dozens of ships flew toward the alien command vessel while playing music at full volume. The alien shields flickered and died. Human weapons found. Their targets for the first time since the battle began. High Commander Veltar felt his ship shake as human missiles struck the hull. This was impossible. No species had ever broken through Zephyrian shields. Yet these humans had done it using something the aliens had never encountered before: the power of music. How are they doing this? Veltar demanded. Unknown, Commander, replied his science officer. Their technology appears to be based on harmonic frequencies. We have no defense against such methods. Veltar's ship was badly damaged, but it was still the most powerful vessel in the alien fleet. He ordered his gunners to target the human flagship. Jake Morrison saw the alien weapons turning toward his ship. The Freedom was already damaged and could not escape in time. But Jake did not order his crew to abandon ship. Instead, he grabbed the ship's microphone. This is Admiral Morrison to all human forces, he said, his voice broadcast across the planet and to every ship in space. Today we showed them that Earth fights back. We proved that humans don't give up, no matter how bad things look. The alien weapons fired. Beams of deadly energy shot toward the Freedom. We may not win today, Jake continued, but we'll make sure they remember us. Earth doesn't kneel. At the last second, Captain Tony Blake flew his damaged fighter between the alien beams and the Freedom. His small ship absorbed the deadly energy meant for the flagship. Tony's fighter exploded in a ball of light, but the Freedom survived. Jake stared at the burning wreckage of Tony's fighter. The young pilot had saved his ship and crew by sacrificing himself. But then something appeared on Jake's radar that made him gasp. More human ships were coming from all directions. Cargo vessels, passenger ships, even space tugs, civilian crews who had heard the battle and come to help. This is Captain Maria Santos on the merchant ship Rising Sun, came a voice over the radio. We're loaded with mining explosives. Where do you want us to ram these alien ships? All across Earth's orbit. Ordinary people in ordinary ships were joining the fight. They had no military training and no powerful weapons. But they had something the aliens did not understand: the human refusal to quit. The first day of the war ended with Earth still free. The aliens had taken terrible losses, including their command ship. But the humans had paid a price too. Cities lay in ruins, and brave people like Tony Blake and Dan Murphy had given their lives. In the underground command center, President Carter received reports from around the world. The news was both good and bad. We hurt them, she said to her advisors. We actually hurt them, but this is just the beginning. They'll be back, and next time they'll be ready for our music. What do we do now? Asked General Miller. Carter looked at the screens showing alien ships still in Earth's orbit, damaged but not defeated. Now we show them what humans do best, she said. We adapt, we survive, and we never, ever give up. Outside, the alien ships regrouped in the darkness of space. High Commander Veltar stared down at the blue planet below. These humans were not like other species. They fought with impossible courage and strange methods. For the first time in his long military career, Veltar was not sure his empire would win. 3 months after the first battle, Earth looked like a different planet. Most of the big cities were destroyed or damaged. Millions of people lived underground now, hiding in subway tunnels, old mines, and bomb shelters. The aliens controlled the surface, but they were learning that controlling land and controlling people were two very different things. General Mike Stevens sat in a deep bunker under the Rocky Mountains, looking at maps of the world. Red marks showed where aliens had bases. Blue marks showed where human fighters were still active. There were a lot more blue marks than the aliens expected. Report from Chicago, said his radio operator, Corporal Nancy Price. Sam Cooper's group hit another alien supply convoy. They got away clean. Mike smiled. Sam Cooper had become famous among the resistance fighters. The former Marine teacher was proving that ordinary people could become extraordinary soldiers when they had to. In the ruins of Chicago, Sam was teaching a group of teenagers how to make bombs from things they found in abandoned stores. The kids were quick learners. They had to be, or they would not survive. Remember, Sam told them, we're not trying to win big battles against their army. We're trying to make their lives so difficult that they wish they had never heard of Earth. 16-year-old Bobby Martinez raised his hand. Mr. Cooper, my mom says we should hide and wait for the government to save us. Sam looked at the boy seriously. Bobby, we are the government now. Every person who fights back, every person who says no to the aliens, they are the real leaders of Earth. That same day, 1,000 miles away, engineer Kate Phillips was crawling through air vents in an alien base in what used to be Detroit. Kate had been fixing air conditioners before the war. Now she used her knowledge of buildings to sneak into alien facilities and plant explosives. The aliens were smart, but they did not understand human buildings. They lived in their ships and did not know about the hidden spaces behind walls, under floors and above ceilings that humans used for pipes and wires. Kate reached the alien power generator and planted a small bomb made from fertilizer and diesel fuel. It would not destroy the whole base, but it would cut their power for days. In the dark, human fighters could attack and escape before the aliens could see them. As Kate crawled back through the vents, she heard alien voices below her. They were speaking in their own language, but Kate had learned some words during her raids. The small humans are causing problems again, one alien said. Command wants us to find their leader and make an example, replied another. Kate smiled in the darkness. The aliens still did not understand. There was no single leader to capture. Every human who fought back was a leader. Meanwhile, in a hidden laboratory built inside an old subway train, Dr. Amy Rodriguez was working on her most important project yet. She had studied captured alien equipment for months and discovered something amazing. The aliens were not just using technology to control their empire. They were using it to control their own thoughts. Look at this, Amy said to her assistant, Dr. Carl Weber. She pointed to a device taken from an alien soldier. This thing is connected to their brain. It tells them what to think, what to feel, what to believe. Carl stared at the device. You mean they're not really evil? They're being controlled? Some of them, yes, Amy replied. But here's the interesting part. Human creativity seems to interfere with their control system. When they're exposed to our music, our art, our stories, the control breaks down. Amy had been developing something she called ghost broadcasters, small devices that could hack into alien communication networks. But instead of sending military information, they sent human culture. She programmed the devices to broadcast everything from rock songs to children's stories, from poetry to comedy shows. Anything that showed how humans thought and felt and dreamed. The effect on alien soldiers was immediate and strange. Some began to question their orders. Others started asking why they were fighting a war against people who seemed so much like themselves. In the alien command base in former New York, High Commander Veltar was dealing with problems he had never faced before. His soldiers were reporting strange thoughts and feelings. Some had even refused direct orders. Commander, said his science officer, the humans are broadcasting some kind of psychological weapon through our communication systems. Veltar listened to one of the human broadcasts. It was a song about a father teaching his son to ride a bicycle. Simple words, simple music. But something about it made him think of his own childhood on the Zephyrian homeworld. Block all human transmissions, Veltar ordered. We have tried, Commander. They adapt faster than we can block them. It is as if their entire species is working together to break our defenses. That was exactly what was happening. All around the world, humans were sharing ideas and working together in ways the aliens could not understand. In Australia, a group of farmers led by Jack Turner had turned their ranch into a hidden airfield. They used crop dusters and small planes to attack alien patrols, then landed in fields that looked empty, but were actually camouflaged runways. In Brazil, Maria Santos led riverboat captains who moved supplies and people through the Amazon jungle. The aliens could see the boats from space, but the jungle was so thick that they could not attack without destroying everything. In Japan, engineer Yuki Tanaka had figured out how to turn the bullet trains into mobile weapon platforms. The trains moved so fast that alien ships could not target them, and they could appear anywhere along the rail lines to attack and then disappear. But the most important development was happening in space. Captain Tony Blake, who everyone thought had died in the first battle, was alive. His fighter had been badly damaged, but he had managed to crash land on an asteroid where human miners had built a small base. Now, Tony was leading a group of survivors who lived in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. They used mining ships and construction equipment to attack alien supply lines. The aliens never expected humans to fight so far from Earth. "This is Blake to all resistance forces," Tony broadcast from his hidden base. "We're hitting them where they don't expect it. Every alien ship we destroy out here is one less that can attack Earth." Tony's group had learned to live like space pirates, moving from asteroid to asteroid, never staying in one place long enough for the aliens to find them. They called themselves the Freedom Fleet, and their success gave hope to fighters on Earth. Back on the planet, President Carter was broadcasting from a different location every day, never staying in one place long enough to be caught. Her speeches were heard by humans everywhere, and now by alien soldiers whose control devices were being disrupted by Amy's broadcasts. "To the brave people fighting across our world," Carter said in her latest message, "you are not alone. Every act of resistance, every moment of defiance sends a message across the galaxy. We are showing every enslaved world that freedom is possible." But Carter's most important message was not for humans. It was for the aliens themselves. "To the soldiers of the Zephyrian Empire," she said, "we know some of you are listening. We know some of you are beginning to question why you fight. We want you to know that Earth offers something your empire never could, the chance to choose your own path." The message was heard on alien ships throughout Earth's solar system. Some soldiers turned off their receivers, but others listened. For the first time in their lives, they heard someone tell them that they could make their own decisions. On his command ship, High Commander Veltar felt something he had not experienced in decades: doubt. The humans were not just fighting his army. They were fighting the ideas that held his empire together. "Commander," his aide said nervously, "some of our soldiers are requesting transfers away from Earth. They say the humans are affecting their minds." Veltar looked down at the blue planet below. When this war started, he had expected to crush Earth in days. Now, months later, his empire was beginning to crack from within. The humans had discovered something more powerful than any weapon: the ability to make others believe in freedom, and that idea was spreading through his fleet like a virus. For the first time since the war began, Veltar wondered if the Zephyrian Empire could survive contact with humanity. These people did not just refuse to kneel, they made others want to stand up too. In bunkers and tunnels around the world, human fighters prepared for whatever came next. They had learned to live like shadows, to fight like ghosts, and to hope like children. The war was far from over, but something had changed. Earth was no longer fighting alone. Somewhere in the galaxy, other worlds were beginning to remember what freedom felt like. The message was spreading, one broadcast at a time, one act of defiance at a time, one human heart at a time. Earth still did not kneel, and now it was teaching others to stand. 6 months after Earth's defiance began, something incredible was happening across the galaxy. On distant worlds that had been slaves to the Zephyrian Empire for hundreds of years, people were starting to fight back. It started small. On the mining world of Kepler-7, workers began singing human songs while they dug in the tunnels. The alien overseers tried to stop them, but the songs spread faster than they could control. On the factory planet Vega 3, assembly line workers started building secret radios to listen to broadcasts from Earth. They heard President Carter's speeches and Sam Cooper's stories of resistance. For the first time in generations, they remembered what it felt like to hope. The Zephyrian Empire was facing revolts on 12 different worlds, and the number was growing every day. Commander Rick Hayes had seen the reports from his hidden base, on Earth's moon. The same Luna base that had been attacked months ago was now a secret communication center, sending Earth's message to every corner of the galaxy. "Look at this," Rick said to Colonel Beth Turner, showing her a message from the Tau Ceti system. "The fish people on Oceanus are refusing to harvest crystals for the Empire. They're singing human songs underwater." Beth smiled. "Fish singing rock and roll, now I've heard everything." But the news was not all good. High Commander Veltar had called for reinforcements from the Zephyrian homeworlds. A massive fleet was coming to Earth, bigger than anything the Empire had ever assembled before. Admiral Jake Morrison received the intelligence while commanding his rebuilt fleet from the UES Freedom. The ship had been repaired and upgraded with new weapons based on Amy Rodriguez's research. "How long until they arrive?" Jake asked his intelligence officer. 3 weeks, sir. Maybe less." Jake looked at the tactical display showing Earth and the surrounding space. The human fleet was stronger than it had been at the start of the war, but they were still outnumbered by the coming enemy force. "Send a message to all resistance cells," Jake ordered. "We need every ship, every fighter, every person who can hold a weapon. This is going to be the big one." On Earth, Dr. Amy Rodriguez was working frantically in her mobile laboratory. She had made another breakthrough that could change everything. The imagination engine she had built could take human creativity and turn it into actual technology. "Watch this," Amy said to Dr. Carl Weber. She connected the device to a computer containing thousands of human stories, songs, and poems. The machine began to analyze the patterns of human imagination. Within hours, the imagination engine had designed new weapons, new ship configurations, and new battle tactics that no military academy had ever taught. It was creating technology based on how humans dreamed and imagined, rather than following logical rules. "This is impossible," Carl said, staring at the designs. "These ships shouldn't be able to fly according to physics." "Maybe Zephyrian physics," Amy replied, "but human imagination doesn't follow their rules." The designs were sent to underground factories across Earth. Within days, human engineers were building spacecraft that looked like nothing anyone had ever seen before. Ships shaped like musical instruments, weapons that fired condensed creativity, and shields powered by human dreams. President Carter was amazed when she saw the first of these new vessels. It looked like a giant guitar with rocket engines, and when it flew, it actually played music that could be heard in space. "Amy, this is either brilliant or completely insane," Carter said. "With humans, there's not much difference," Amy replied, with a grin. Meanwhile, Captain Tony Blake was leading his Freedom Fleet on a daring mission deep in Zephyrian territory. They had captured an enemy communication station and discovered something shocking. The alien empire was not as unified as it appeared. Many Zephyrian worlds were questioning why they were fighting Earth. Some alien commanders were secretly hoping the humans would win. "This is bigger than we thought," Tony told his crew. "We're not just fighting an empire, we're fighting an idea, and that idea is already cracking." Tony's team had also rescued prisoners from a Zephyrian labor camp. Among them were aliens from dozens of different species, all enslaved by the Empire. But something amazing had happened in the camp. The prisoners had been teaching each other human songs and stories. A bird-like alien from the Centauri system could sing Amazing Grace perfectly. A rock creature from the asteroid belt had learned to tell jokes. They had all been infected by human culture, and it was making them remember their own creativity. "We want to fight with you," said Zara, a blue-skinned alien who had been enslaved for 20 years. "Earth showed us that freedom is possible. Now we want to help others find it too." Tony looked at the group of freed aliens. They came from different worlds, breathed different air, and had completely different bodies. But they all had the same look in their eyes that he had seen in human resistance fighters. "Welcome to the Freedom Fleet," Tony said. Back on Earth, Sam Cooper was preparing for the biggest battle of his teaching career. His group of Chicago fighters had grown into an army of thousands. They were still using homemade weapons and guerrilla tactics, but now they had alien allies fighting alongside them. A group of young Zephyrian soldiers had deserted their units and joined the human resistance. They brought valuable intelligence about alien tactics and weaknesses. "Why did you switch sides?" Sam asked one of the alien deserters, a young soldier named Kex. "Your people showed me something my empire never did," Kex replied in broken English. "You showed me that it's okay to think for myself." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on world after world. The human message of defiance and creativity was spreading like wildfire through populations that had forgotten how to dream. On the industrial planet of Forge 9, workers were building their own weapons instead of making tools for their oppressors. On the agricultural world of Harvest 12, farmers were growing food for rebels instead of feeding the Empire. The Zephyrian government was losing control, and they knew it. High Commander Veltar stood in his command ship as it approached Earth, leading the largest fleet in the Empire's history, but he was no longer confident of victory. Half of his officers had requested transfers, and some of his ships had reported equipment failures that seemed suspiciously convenient. "Commander," his aide said nervously, "we're receiving surrender offers from 3 more systems. They want to join the rebellion." Veltar stared at the view screen showing Earth ahead. The small blue planet had somehow become the center of a galactic revolution. How had these humans done it? "Sir, we're also getting reports that some of our own ships are playing human music during their off-duty hours." Veltar felt a chill. The humans had not just resisted conquest, they had turned the Empire's own soldiers against it. Meanwhile, Commander Rick Hayes was coordinating the defense of Earth from his lunar command center. Reports were coming in from across the solar system as human and alien allies prepared for the final battle. "All stations report ready," Rick announced. "Earth fleet is in position. Freedom fleet is standing by. Resistance forces on the surface are armed and waiting." President Carter made one final broadcast before the battle began. This time her message was heard not just on Earth, but on hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. To everyone listening, "Human or alien, slave or free," she said, "today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of every thinking being to choose their own destiny. We fight so that no one, anywhere, ever has to kneel to tyranny again." On distant worlds, beings of every species stopped what they were doing to listen. "The Empire tells you that resistance is futile, that freedom is impossible, that you must accept your place," Carter continued. "Earth has a different message. We say that freedom is not given, it is taken. We say that every being has the right to stand tall and proud." Her voice grew stronger, filled with the determination that had carried humanity through months of impossible war. "Today, we stand together. Human and alien, young and old, from Earth to the edge of the galaxy. We stand for the simple idea that no one should have to kneel." As Carter's words spread across the stars, something remarkable happened. On world after world, beings who had been enslaved for generations stood up. They walked out of factories, left their workstations, and looked up at the sky. The galactic revolution had begun, and Earth was no longer fighting alone. In space around the blue planet, the largest battle in galactic history was about to begin. But this time it would not be empire against world. It would be freedom against tyranny, with the fate of every thinking being in the universe hanging in the balance. The final battle began at sunrise on Earth. Though in space there was no real sunrise, only the light of distant stars and the glow of 1,000 warships preparing to fight. High Commander Veltar led the largest fleet the Zephyrian Empire had ever assembled. 5,000 ships of every size, from massive planet killers to small fighters. It should have been enough to destroy Earth 10 times over. But as his fleet approached the blue planet, Veltar saw something that made him pause. Ships were coming from everywhere, not just Earth ships, but vessels from dozens of different worlds. Some were alien designs he recognized from conquered planets. Others looked like nothing he had ever seen before. "Commander," his science officer, reported, "we count over 3,000 enemy vessels. But sir, Many of them appeared to be our own ships. Veltar stared at the tactical display. Nearly half of the ships defending Earth were Zephyrian vessels that had joined the rebellion. His own empire was fighting against itself. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Freedom, watching the enemy fleet approach. Beside him were allies he could never have imagined months ago. Captain Zara from the Centauri system, Commander Kex who had deserted from the Zephyrian army, and dozens of others from worlds across the galaxy. All ships, this is Morrison, Jake broadcast to the combined fleet. Today we fight not for conquest but for freedom. Remember, we're not trying to destroy an empire, we're trying to free it. The battle started when both fleets were still, millions of miles apart. Energy beams and missiles crossed the darkness of space like deadly fireworks. But this fight was different from any battle in galactic history. Dr. Amy Rodriguez had done more than build new weapons. Her imagination engine had created something impossible. Ships that could adapt and change during combat, powered by the dreams and hopes of their crews. The human ship Symphony looked like a giant violin and fought by playing music so beautiful that enemy gunners stopped shooting to listen. The thunderstorm crackled with electricity that jumped between enemy ships, disabling their systems. The rainbow could become invisible by bending light around itself like a prism. But the most amazing ship was Tony Blake's new command vessel, built in secret by his Freedom Fleet. It was called the Defiance, and it had been designed using the collective imagination of every human and alien in the Resistance. The Defiance looked like it should not be able to fly. It had too many angles, too many curves, too many parts that seemed to stick out randomly. But when Tony took it into battle, it moved like a living thing, dodging enemy fire and striking back with weapons that fired pure human stubbornness. "This is Blake to all fighters," Tony announced as he led his squadron against the enemy flagship. "Remember what we're fighting for. The right to be different, the right to dream, the right to choose our own path." The space battle raged for hours, but the real victory was happening inside the Zephyrian ships themselves. Dr. Rodriguez had loaded her ghost broadcasters with everything: human music, alien poetry from freed worlds, stories of courage from across the galaxy, and something new she called pure freedom frequency. The broadcasts were not just reaching Zephyrian communication systems now. They were being amplified by every liberated alien in the fleet, creating a wave of pure creative energy that swept through both fleets. On Zephyrian ships, soldiers began laying down their weapons. They had heard too many human songs, seen too many examples of courage, felt too much hope to continue fighting for an empire that crushed dreams. "Sir," Veltar's communications officer said, "the Third Fleet is refusing orders. They say they're switching sides." "And the Seventh Fleet?" "They've shut down their weapons and are broadcasting human music, sir." Veltar watched his empire collapse around him. This was not defeat in battle. This was something far worse. His own people were choosing freedom over obedience, but the commander was not ready to give up. His flagship still had enough firepower to destroy Earth, even if he had to do it alone. "Target the planet," Veltar ordered. "If we cannot rule it, we will destroy it." The massive planet-killer weapon on his ship began to charge. It would take 10 minutes to reach full power, but when it fired, nothing would be left of Earth except space dust. On the surface of Earth, President Carter watched the space battle from her command bunker. She could see the enemy flagship on the screen, its terrible weapon glowing brighter as it prepared to fire. "Ma'am," General Stevens said quietly, "we should evacuate the planet." Carter shook her head. "No. If we run now, we prove that the Empire was right about us. We prove that humans kneel when things get tough." Instead, Carter did something that surprised everyone. She opened a direct communication channel to every ship in both fleets, every resistance fighter on Earth, and every liberated world across the galaxy. "People of the galaxy," she said, her voice reaching billions of beings on thousands of worlds. "This is Lisa Carter, President of Earth. We are about to die, but before we do, I want to say something." Across space, the battle slowed as everyone stopped to listen. "They say we should kneel because they are stronger. They say we should surrender because resistance is hopeless. They say we should give up our dreams because dreams don't matter. Carter's voice grew stronger, filled with the same determination that had started this impossible war. But we have learned something in these months of fighting. We learned that strength is not about the size of your fleet or the power of your weapons. Real strength comes from knowing who you are and refusing to let anyone change that. On alien worlds across the galaxy, enslaved beings stopped their work to listen. We learned that hope is not foolish. Hope is the most powerful force in the universe because it makes impossible things possible. On Zephyrian ships, soldiers were openly weeping as they heard words their empire had tried to make them forget. And we learned that dreams do matter. Dreams are what make us more than animals, more than machines, more than slaves. President Carter took a deep breath and spoke the words that would echo across the galaxy for generations. Today, Earth dies free rather than live in chains. But the idea we fought for, the idea that every being has the right to stand tall and choose their own path, that idea will never die. Something incredible happened. On every world where Carter's words were heard, billions of beings stood up. They walked away from their jobs, their masters, their chains. The entire Zephyrian empire ground to a halt as its workforce simply stopped working. But the most amazing thing happened on Veltar's own ship. His crew, inspired by Carter's words, and months of exposure to human broadcasts, refused to fire the planet-killer weapon. "I will not destroy a world full of dreamers," said his weapons officer, a young Zephyrian who had been listening to human music for weeks. Veltar looked around his bridge. Every officer, every soldier, every crew member was looking at him with eyes that had learned to hope. "Commander," his aide said gently, "perhaps it is time to try something new." Veltar stared at the blue planet on his screen. These humans had done something no military force ever could. They had conquered his empire without destroying it. They had turned his own people against him by showing them a better way to live. Slowly, Veltar reached for his communication controls. "This is High Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire," he broadcast to both fleets. I surrender." The words echoed across space, across the galaxy, across history itself. "Earth does not kneel," Veltar continued, his voice growing stronger. "And perhaps it is time for the rest of us to stand up too." The war was over, but something much bigger was just beginning. Within days, the Zephyrian Empire ceased to exist. In its place rose something new, a galactic federation where every world had a voice and every being had the right to dream. Earth, scarred but unbroken, became the capital of this new alliance. President Carter stood in the rebuilt United Nations building, now the center of galactic government, and looked out at representatives from 1,000 different worlds. "We didn't fight because we thought we could win," she said in her inaugural address as the first president of the Galactic Federation. "We fought because surrender was never an option." She paused, looking at the diverse crowd of beings before her. Humans, aliens, former enemies, now friends. Today begins a new age, an age where no one kneels, where everyone stands tall, and where the greatest weapon is not fear, but hope. In the audience, Admiral Morrison sat next to former High Commander Veltar, who had become Earth's strongest ally. Nearby, Tony Blake held hands with Captain Zara as they planned their wedding, the first human-alien marriage in history. Dr. Rodriguez was already working on her next project, an imagination engine big enough to help rebuild all the worlds, damaged by centuries of empire. And in a small school in rebuilt Chicago, Sam Cooper was teaching a class full of human and alien children. On the blackboard behind him were written the words that had started it all. "Earth doesn't kneel." But underneath, in smaller letters, he had added something new. "And now neither does anyone else." The galaxy was free, and it would never kneel again.